Hello everyone, my name's Tina Smith and today I am so excited to share with you a brand new collection that I designed for Spellbinders. It is near and dear to my heart. It features everything that you need to create some wonderful baking themed cards, or you can make tags for your little treats, or you can make scrapbook layouts. I just fell in love with baking a long time ago. In fact, me and the husband used to own a bakery, and I'm just putting the love of my bakery with my love of paper crafting, and we have a new collection called Make It and Bake It. This collection has 5 etched die sets, a fabulous 3D embossing folder, and it also has a stamp set with some punny greetings that go with each one of the SKUs here. And we're going to go over everything in the collection and take a closer look at it. I'll just show you what they can do, and we're going to jump in. We're going to start off with the die sets. First off, we need some utensils to do our little baking, and the Fluff, Frost, and Roll die set is just wonderful. They're all scaled to size for everything in the collection. What I mean by that is you can mix and match the die sets, and they're scaled to size so they can work together, which is so fun. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. But let's go over the die set really quickly. There's 17 dies in here, starting off with the whisk. The whisk, I use Spellbinders treasured cardstock to cut out my whisk here, and I use gold just to fancy it up a little bit. And then you have the handle. This die here will cut out the handles to all of the utensils. Okay, one shot through the die cut machine and you have a whole bunch of different handles. So that goes with this. Okay, next up we have the rolling pin. This is what our rolling pin looks like. There's 3 pieces to the rolling pin, and including an insert. The insert adds a lot of texture, but you don't have to add it. They layer perfectly together to create that textured look. Okay, and then if you want different handles, I have you covered because we have the little handle pieces. You can add it to the top and bottom of the rolling pin. Okay, let's go over our spatula here. So much fun. I have a few cookies in my collection, and the spatula is scaled perfectly for those cookies. This is what the die set looks like. There's a hole in there too. Okay, and again, we have the bases or the handles that you can add different colors to. We have this sweet little spoon that has a trio of hearts in it. And this little spoon has this piece here, which goes behind the hearts, so you can have the hearts a different color. So these are meant to go together. Let me show you what it looks like. So you would put this piece behind the hearts to create a different color of heart. So sweet. And then of course again you have the handle that you would die cut out with this piece. Now we also have this cute little scraper or spatula, and then we have the top piece that you can cut out. I did mine with a couple shades of blue, and then I die cut out this piece with some of my treasured cardstock and put in a gold heart. I just inlaid it. That's a cute little spatula. Now I get to share with you the piping bag. The piping bag is 3 pieces. This is what it looks like when they're put together. There is debossed detail so you know where to put these 2 pieces. Okay, and this is a little bit special because it's meant to go with, if you want to, your greeting that is also included in your die set. This greeting says hello. The hello does have a shadow. They layer beautifully together. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, you see this extra loopy on the end? That's intentional because I wanted it to look like frosting. You can take the piping bag, add it to your greeting, so it looks like you're piping out a hello, which I always had a problem with when I decorated cakes. Just saying, you won't have any problems with this because it's already done for you. Getting the perfect little hello is always a challenge, but this makes it really easy. Last but not least, I always like to embellish with a little extra something. So some of my die sets in the Make It and Bake It collection have a little flower. Okay, so we have this flower, and then we have a leaf set. The leaf is connected. Let me show you what it looks like. It's 1 piece, so you won't lose those little pieces. And then you can also die cut out the flower center. That's the flower center, okay? And then the flower looks like this. So all you would do is add a little bit of glue. You would just add the flower center right in the middle. And I think this looks like a nice playful flower. But what you can also do is die cut out two, add a dot of glue, and then you just shift it a little bit and you can create a more full flower like this. And that's what I did here. Just attached all three of them together and you can create this nice full flower, or a 4-petal flower. This is the card project that I made using the Fluff Frost and Roll. I popped up all of my utensils. I used every single one of them here, including the piping bag and then my hello. I love the way this turns out. This would be great for a neighbor gift, or even a potluck or a dinner party. So this is my Fluff Frost and Roll die set. We're going to move along. Say hello to the Measure Mates die set. The Measure Mates is all things measuring, and I also threw in a cookie jar just because, well, for good measure. Okay, we have the cookie jar that has an insert. Let me show you. This is the cookie jar. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a cookie jar. It could be a flour jar or a sugar jar. You would just remove the insert. But we do have a cookie insert that you can add if you wanted to. And then there is a lid. Okay. This little circle piece that has the dot in the middle, okay, you can add to the very top of the cookie jar like I did. But you can also add it to the scale. Okay, let me show you what the scale does. You would die cut out this piece, and then you would layer this piece on top as the weighing portion. Okay, and then I like to mention, so the weight portion of the scale are two pieces, so you can layer right in the middle. That's what I did here. Okay, I layered them together. Now, you also have this little piece that goes in the center of the scale. Now, you can add this die on top of it if you want. Okay, I use gold cardstock, but you can change out the color and add this to the very top of this piece if you wanted to. Okay, but then you would layer this right over your scale. I added a whole bunch of cookies that we also have in our kit. I'll show you how I made those in a minute. To get these on top of the scale, I had actually put a piece of acetate and stacked them. Okay. Speaking of the cookies are two pieces and they layer perfectly together. All you would do is add a little bit of glue to the upper portion. And then you would layer, want to make sure it's the right way. So flip it around, add the chocolate chip layer. So there are some cookie accents in this set. Okay, you can have them on the bottom of your cookie jar if you wanted to, but it's very easy to put together. Okay, so that's the scale. Next up, I want to share with you some really fun measuring spoons. Also in the Measure Mates die set, we have some measuring cups and we also have measuring spoons. Now I didn't do all 5 spoons or all 5 measuring cups only because I know we would be able to fit it in the card. So we just did 3 sizes, which I think is the perfect amount. And it creates some measuring spoons, complete with a little circle that you can add the measuring spoons to. So there's die cut out holes at the bottom of the spoons and you can layer them inside this little ring here. Now this ring, there is a notch that opens automatically. You see how it opens? And then you can add, you just slide in your measuring cups here. They fit perfect. There is no effort whatsoever in when you add these. Add the third one here, and it does lay flat. After you add it, you see how it kind of closes? So it closes back up. So you can add your measuring cups and your measuring spoons to the ring that they all come with. with ease, and it's so much fun. The measuring spoons and measuring cups are 2-piece sets. Okay, so you add for dimension, you can add the top layer. I used white cardstock, but you can layer them right over the top to add a little bit of dimension. Now, I do want to mention too that these are not perfect circles, and they're not meant to be perfect circles. This one here is a perfect circle. These are actually meant to give the measuring spoons a little bit more of a realistic look. Okay, so I just love that about these. I also want to mention one more thing with this little ring that has the opening in it. When you die cut this out, you have the inside piece. I added this inside piece to the center of my scale. Let me show you. So if you want to add the inside piece behind this piece, you can add layers to it also. That's what I did with this one. I just wanted to mention that. Okay. And lastly, we have a liquid measuring cup. Okay, which is 2 pieces. We have this piece, and then we have the top piece that gives it a little bit of dimension. It would go this way. To add liquid to this measuring cup, if you wanted to die cut it out once more with white cardstock, just use your scissors, and you can trim partially. Just trim a little bit off, however much you want. Just add a little bit of adhesive. And then you can layer your liquid on the bottom so it looks like you have some liquid in there. That's an option too with the liquid measuring cup. This is the card that I made with my Measuremate set. So much fun. I actually had used our embossing folder as part of the collection, and also our stamp set that's in our collection. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But that's our Measuremates. The next die set that I love to share with you is called the Cool It Cookie Rack. This is complete with your baking sheet, a cookie rack. There are elements to create 4 cookie cutters along with 4 cookies. Actually, take that back, 5 cookies. There's a greeting that says enjoy, and you also have the shadow that goes with it. And then I also included a larger little flower that you can put together that's great. 1 layer or even greater with 2 layers. Let's go over the dies really quickly. When you die cut this out, this creates a cookie rack. It's on the larger side, so it's going to be your main focal image on your die set. I die cut out mine with blue cardstock, but of course you could die cut this out with any color cardstock that you want. Okay, you have this piece that if you were to layer both of these together, if you want a little dimension on your cookie sheet, you would add this layer to it. Okay, this just adds another realistic look to your baking sheet. You would just layer them together like this and stack them. This is another one of those die sets that would go great with Spellbinders Treasured Series cardstock. So if you wanted to add gold or silver, you could very well add this. But just adding that layer, when you put these two together, it does add depth to your cookie sheet without a lot of dimension. Okay, just makes it look more fun. Okay, so this is the inside too, if you want to keep that for another card project. So that's the cookie sheet. Next, to fit on top of the cookie sheet, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I do cool my cookies on the cookie sheet or the baking sheet. Okay, I die cut out my baking sheet here. Let me show you. With some gold cardstock. Okay, now if you wanted a little dimension with this to pop it up, you could stack a few of these together, but let me show you a really quick way to add dimension to your cookie rack. Okay, is once you put your cookies on the very top, you see how flat it is? Flip it around and then put foam adhesive behind it, and then you would have dimension on your cookie sheet here, like so. Okay, I'm going to add one more cookie to this, so I'm not going to add it there, but that's a great way to add dimension to your cookie rack. Each of the cookies have 3 different layers. Okay, one layer, of course, is to make the cookie cutter. You would just add the second largest layer, and that would create each of your cookie cutters. Okay, that's very simple. Okay, but if you wanted to stack all 3 layers together, you could very well create a stacked cookie like this one. The round one, I layered all 3 together just for a little added dimension. Same goes with the flower. All you would do is die cut this out with some colored cardstock, add a little glue, layer this on top. Okay, and then with this layer, it's the very top layers have a lot of detail on them, which are so cute. All you would do is add the detail layer right over the top. All 3 layers create a cookie like this. So sweet. We're going to add this here to our cookie rack. Okay, 2 layers, which would be just this layer and this layer, would create this little cookie. So much fun. And then if you want a swirlied cookie, all you would do is add an extra layer that's included in the die set, which would be this little swirly. It'd be these 2 would equal this cookie here. So there's lots of options. 5 different cookies that you can create with the Cool It Cookie Rack die set. Okay, so much fun. Also included, let's put these to the side. Also included in the Cool It Cookie Rack is a flower die set called Fluff, Frost, and Roll. The flower does the same thing. It looks very cute on its own. If you just want to add the flower center, you can do that, and this creates a really fun flower. But it really is meant to layer together just to add a little bit of dimension, just like so. And then you can just add 1 dot of glue because both the leaves are attached, and you can add your leaves to the flower, and it accents all of your elements beautifully. So cute. Last but not least, we have a sentiment die that's in our Cool It Cookie Rack that says enjoy. There's a shadow and then there's scripty word that says enjoy. There's also a little heart on the top of the J. So sweet. So that's included in the die set also. So that's everything in my Cool It Cookie Rack die set. This is the card project that I made with it. Tucked some cookie cutters under here. Added my enjoy. And again, to pop up the cookie rack, all you would have to do is put foam tape behind the cookies here. And it will give it a little bit of height and a little bit of dimension. And of course, adding flowers is always nice to cards. Remember earlier when I said everything is scaled to size? Well, these are from the Fluff, Frost, and Roll. You can see how they're scaled to size so they could work together. So you can mix and match your elements. You could actually put a cookie underneath your cookie spatula if you wanted to. Let me show you. Yep. So if you wanted to add a cookie underneath, you very well could, like I did in the picture here. So they're scaled to size, so they can work all together, so you can mix and match to your heart's content. Okay, so let's move along. My Made with Love die set is the larger die set. There's 17 cutting dies in here. You have a fun apron. There is a little pocket on the apron that you can stuff with a cookie or layer a cupcake on it. There's also some oven mitts, the greeting and shadow that say Made with Love. And then there's also a fun little flower that you can use to adorn on your apron, or even put it on your oven mitts, or just accent anything you use with the die set. Let's take a look at what each item can do. In the Made with Love die set, there's several elements for the apron that you can do a little customizing with. You have the apron base, so pattern paper, colored cardstock, die cut this out. Okay, and then if you want to use colored cardstock, there's an insert with polka dots that you can add. This is what they look like. Here's the polka dots. This is the apron base layered together. You can add polka dots to your apron. To add the polka dot layer, you would just stack them together, and it creates a polka dot layer. And again, you can do any color you want. Okay, the top of the apron will fit perfectly behind this upper portion. You just layer it together and it lines up beautifully. Same with the strings that go on the left and right. You would just add a little bit of glue and layer it on this top corner of the apron. There's a little square, so it helps you line it up. And then that's all there is to this cute little apron. If you wanted to add the pocket, you can see the stitch detail on there. If you want to make it a functioning pocket, I left the top open, that way we could stuff it with a cookie or anything you want. You would just layer that on here. I think bows just make aprons super adorable. And so you can add basically the bow anywhere you want. You can add it here or on here. But there's an option to add a bow. I also included a scalloped border for the apron with stitch detail too. Okay, I die cut out mine with some white cardstock. So if you want to layer a little scallop border behind the apron, you would just add this too. Next we have our oven mitts. Now the oven mitts are really easy to layer together. You would just add glue. There's debossed area, and then you can add your heart to that area. That looks cute on its own, and you can see there is a etch detail in here. Create a little crisscross pattern on those oven mitts. If you wanted to layer a cuff on the oven mitt, there's a lefty and a righty. You would just add the cuff to the oven mitts, and you can customize colors. Those are our oven mitts. They're easy to put together. Just add hearts in the cuff if you want them. They look cute even without the cuff. Okay, so those are our oven mitts. Those are included in our Made with Love. And I also want to mention the bow here. If you wanted to add it to the oven mitt, you can create a little dainty oven mitt. Okay, so you can mix and match, which is really nice. Next we have some baking elements to go on the pocket or in the pocket. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, we have the cookie. The cookie die is one piece. You have the chocolate chip layer, and then you have the backing. The dark circle is the backing, and then all you would do is add some glue behind the cookie portion and layer them together, and you have an instant chocolate chip cookie. Okay, this little cookie will fit perfectly inside the pocket of our apron, so you can stuff it in there. Okay, you can also stuff a cupcake. Okay, I cut mine out with some gold treasured cardstock, and then I added the frosting layer right over the top. The frosting layer has a little cherry on there too that you can add. I cut mine out with red cardstock. And then also included in our die set is this little leaf and flower center. This goes to our flower, but the leaf is small enough to where you could add it to the cherry too. So the leaf itself looks like this. Okay, and it fits nicely behind the cherry on the cupcake. The cupcake could go on top or of course inside of the pocket of the apron. It's scaled perfectly. Those are little sweet treats that are included in the Made with Love die set. This flower here is meant to layer two together. So you would die cut out two of the flower, just stack them together, okay, and then you can add your flower center. So 2 layers creates a really fun flower, and then you can add the leaf, of course, just add a dot of glue. There's 2 leaves that are attached, and then you can add this flower. And then we have a little extra flower detail that you can also add to your apron center. You can layer them up anywhere you want. Okay, so there's options there. Also, if you want to die cut out 3 of these flowers, you would create a real full flower. Let me show you. This is what 3 of them look like together. So 2 or 3, you can mix match and create different looking flowers. Last but not least, we have the Made with Love, and then we also have its shadow. You would die cut out the Made with Love. There's 3 different words in here, and then you stack them on the shadow. If you want to, you don't have to use the shadow. Also, there's a heart for the dot of the eye on the width, and that's also part of the Made with Love collection. So this is everything that the Made with Love collection creates, mix and match. And I also want to mention again that this set is great for interchanging with the other die sets. The measuring spoons from the Measuremates, this is the largest measuring spoon. You could tuck inside the pocket if you wanted to create a cute little effect there. You have the spatula once more from the Fluff, Frost and Roll. It's scaled perfectly for this little cookie here. So I just love that you can just interchange all of the elements. Let me show you the card that I made with it. This is the project I had created with the Made with Love. I did add the bow to our cute little oven mix and did a little tucking with them underneath the apron. I didn't add the scallop to our apron. Of course you could, but added a little couple little cookies underneath my Made with Love greeting. I just think it's so much fun. I think this is great for neighbors or treats. I just have a blast with this. So let's move along to our next die set. The final die set in the Make It and Bake It collection is called Magic Mixer, and it is exactly that. It's a magic mixer. Let me go through each one of the dies and show you what it can do, okay? First, we're going to go over the bowl element. Okay, the bowl element is 4 pieces. Okay, if you put all 4 of these together, actually, if you put all 3 of these together, it creates this. Okay, and then if you want to have an empty bowl, you would add this top layer, just like so. This piece here is a decorative element, which is this one. If you don't want to add that, you don't have to. It looks really nice without it. The top piece is separated because this way you can layer in the batter in your bowl. All you would do is glue it down on the inside, and then you would take this piece, add it to the back, and then you have a batter filled bowl. Okay, if you want to add a messy dripping element, you would die cut this piece out. And you see the little polka dots that are on this piece? This die doesn't add polka dots, okay? What I had did was taken the batter from here, and these little polka dots are the pieces that are punched out of this one. Okay, so I just glued individual little dots on this batter to coordinate with the drips here. So much fun. You don't have to add the drip if you don't want to, but that's an option. Anytime you cut these out, let me show you another bowl that I created. This is another bowl that I had created. Sky's the limit when making these bowls. It's so much fun. So those are the elements to create the bowl. Very easy to layer together. And you can actually slide this to the left, to the right, or add this to the middle. So the messy portion of the batter can be placed anywhere. You can even die cut out 2 of them and layer them together if you wanted to. So that's the bowl. Let's go over the mixer next. The mixer base itself is 5 pieces, and they're made to mix and match colors. Okay, this is the base of the mixer here. When you cut this out, this is what it looks like. These little pieces punch out. Let me show you. You just punch these out. It creates a little vent, okay? And if you put this rectangle die behind this piece here in the corner, you can change out the colors of the vent. I put gold behind this one. You can see there. Behind this one, I put pink. Okay, so that's what this rectangle here does. Now this smaller rectangle does the same thing, but this will add a layer behind the handle. Okay, you would put this piece behind the handle. You see the vent here on the handle? You would put this behind here. There's actually debossed area, so you know exactly where to put it. So on this one, I put pink behind this handle with this die. Okay, put pink behind here, and then I layered the handle portion on top of the mixer. And you could switch out the colors. I did that so you could switch out the colors. So this piece just goes layered up here. Okay, this piece here, this piece, when die cut out, will die cut out the top buttons for the mixer, the ones that you would push down. Okay, so that's what these pieces do. And again, and then when you do die cut out this, okay, the heart die cuts out also. If you wanted to die cut it out one more time with a different color, you could add a different color heart to your mixer. Okay, so you can mix and match the little hearts, or just put some cardstock behind it if you wanted to. Okay, so that's the mixer base. The mixer also has a really fun cord. Okay, this cord has a corner that fits on the corner of the mixer. See how it's kind of rounded a little bit? That's meant to go in this rounded corner. So if you were to take this and glue it here, it would line up perfectly. Okay, so that's the cord. I had did this one in gold. So that's the cord that goes to the mixer. Now, as far as the beaters, there's two different sets of beaters. You have a double beater and you have a single beater. The double is one piece. This is what it looks like. And this will go layered perfectly. Actually, you can just add a little bit of glue to the top of it. And then you can add your beaters. I like to add it to where a little bit of the rectangle is sticking out from the bottom. But that's all you would do for the beaters. And then there is your cute little mixer. I mean, how fun is this? Okay, and of course, if you just want one beater, you would just add one beater. We add a little glue to the top. One beater would work the same too. Actually, we can go ahead and add the cord to this one. So one beater works just as well. Now you see this little piece over here, the dripping batter, that's an extra piece. That's this piece here. And you can add this piece to the single beater, or you can add it to one of the double beaters. Okay. But if you want a whole lot of batter on your beaters, that's a tongue twister, there's this piece that you can die cut out to match the batter of your mixing bowl, which I did here. Okay. Now, this die does not have the little chocolate chips in it. This is just one solid piece. There is etched detail in here, but it's just one solid piece. To get the chocolate chips again, I just die cut out the batter portion with the polka dots in dark brown cardstock. And I punched these out, and that's what I used to add the chocolate chips to this piece. Okay, so you can mix and match it however you want. There is a slit in here. You can see it opens up, and then this can slide into the double mixer beautifully, or you can add it to the single mixer also. So when you layer this together, it looks so fun on a card. Now, I also want to mention that, again, everything is scaled to size, so you can add a spatula and a spoon with this set, and you can see how they kind of coordinate together as far as proportion goes. So mix and match all of the sets. It's so much fun. Lastly, there's a greeting in the Magic Mixer die set. This is the sweet greeting. There's a sweet, and then there is a shadow. The S is separate. The W-E-E-T is separate. So it's a two-piece word. It layers perfect on the shadow. It's on the smaller side. So let's grab a different bowl. But you could actually put it on the bowl if you wanted to, but it is on the smaller side. It goes with the theme, and that's also included in the Magic Mixer die set. Okay, we're going to take a look at the card project that I made using it. For this project, I actually used the stamp set too that says "You Batter, Get Well." I think that's a fun card that will just make a recipient smile, especially if they're not feeling very well. You can see how big the mixer is compared to the bowl that lines up beautifully. That is my final die set in the Make It and Bake It collection. Next up, I get to share with you my stamp set that coordinates with the Make It and Bake It collection. There are 11 greetings in here. They all have a little bit of punniness to them that have to do with mixing and batters and rolling pins and whisks. Let me go over the greetings really quickly with you. You have "You Stir Are Fabulous." That goes great with the utensils. "Give Me Some Sugar." I thought that was nice and playful. You have "You Batter, Get Well." "Nothing a Little Cookie Dough Can't Cure." "You Count, Not Calories." "Wishing You a Great Birthday, Just Roll With It." "You Bake the World Batter." "Sorry for the Mix-Up." "Better Late Than Never." And that would go really good for a birthday card. And also, "You're My Batter Half." So some fun greetings that you can customize your cards with. I stamped them out to show you what they look like, all stamped out. Now you're going to notice that there's a few little swirlies on here. Okay, you have swirlies on the Just Roll With It. Sorry for the mix-up. You have a swirly on the You Count Not Calories, and you also have a swirly on Give Me Some Sugar. Okay, I meant to do that because when you stamp them, if you wanted to use the piping bag and add it to the greeting, it just kind of goes with the baking theme. You can also add it to Sorry for the Mix-Up. You Count Not Calories. You can add the piping bag too. Okay, and then you also have Give Me Some Sugar. You can add the piping bag over here to this. So a little playfulness to the greetings. Let me go ahead and stamp You Stir Are Fabulous. I'm going to stamp it on my tag here. They stamp fine, very detailed. Let me show you. They stamp beautifully, but very fine and detailed, so they're not thick and bulky. It's a nice little fine line greeting for them. There's two different fonts also on this stamp set. You have a swirly one and more of a scripty one. So two different fonts. So those are options too with the different fonts. Okay, so this is the Sugared Expression stamp set. That's part of the collection here. And then finally, I get to share with you a brand new 3D embossing folder that is perfect to go in the backgrounds of the Make It and Bake It collection. Let me grab some cardstock. This is what the embossing folder looks like. It's a larger embossing folder that's 5.5 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. It is a 3D, so these are really going to pop out for your backgrounds. Okay, they're all things that are in the collection that are in here. They're just scaled in a smaller size. There's even some small flowers in here, guys. You get cookie cutters, measuring spoons, rolling pins. There's even the mixer down here. So much going on in here, and it makes a great background. Let me show you what I did here. The card that I had made with this one, what I had did was taken 4 pieces of colored cardstock. Okay, I layered them together and then I quartered them and then put one color in each one of the corners, and then I ran it through my embossing folder. So all of the images line up. And then I took some white pigment ink. I happened to use my Hero Unicorn pigment ink, and it went over them so they just popped on my card base. And then the greeting that we stamped, I just put right there in the center. Makes a great background. If you wanted to add a couple utensils, you very well could. I think that would look really cute. If you wanted to add a mixing bowl and stamp a greeting on there and put it in the center, I think that would be cute too. So just lots of options, especially with an embossing folder, because it makes great backgrounds for your card. So that is the Confection Companions embossing folder. And the last item that's in my collection. Let's take a look really quickly at all the items once more. I hope this gives you a little bit of inspiration with the Make It and Bake It collection. Like I said, it's near and dear to my heart. It's super fun. I know any project that you create with this collection will surely send some smiles, and it'll probably get you in the baking mood. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a delicious day and happy crafting.